Somewhere, right now, someone is about to send a message that starts with hey and nothing else. They will wait. They will stare at their phone. They will regret it immediately. If you're currently cringing at your own dating life, don't we have been failing at this for roughly 300,000 years? Humans built the pyramids and mapped the stars long before we figured out how to talk to someone we liked without sounding completely unhinged. This is the story of how early humans, ancient civilizations, and some genuinely confused historical figures tried, and mostly failed, to flirt. Let's start with the basics. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies like the Hadza people of Tanzania have documented something that should make you feel deeply understood. Back then, the most common flirting strategy wasn't a clever line. It was showing up with food and hoping that was enough. Researcher Kristen Hawkes found that successful hunters would often share meat specifically with people they were interested in. Anthropologists have a fancy academic name for this: costly signaling, in plain English. It means, I brought you a dead animal because I like you and I don't know what else to say. If you have ever nervously bought someone a coffee and then stood there in awkward silence, congratulations, you are participating in a 300,000-year-old mating strategy. You've just replaced the zebra meat with a latte and significantly less blood. As civilization grew, humans found new ways to be awkward. Enter. Ancient Rome, in the year 79, Mount Vesuvius buried the city of Pompeii in volcanic ash, preserving their daily lives and their terrible dating habits forever. Among the surviving graffiti, we found a line that proves negging is a Roman invention. Someone carved this into a wall. I wonder, wall that you have not fallen down, since you bear the weight of so many writers' tedious verses. Think about that. A Roman was so annoyed by other people's bad pickup lines that they carved a complaint into a permanent stone wall. It's essentially a 2000-year-old Yelp review for flirting. And the irony, carving your complaint into a wall is itself a form of terrible flirting that has now outlasted the entire Roman Empire. But if you think carving a complaint into a wall was bad, the Middle Ages decided to make things even more complicated by turning flirting into a literal homework assignment. This was the era of courtly love. It sounds romantic, but it was basically a labyrinth of rules. In 1185, a man named Andreas Capellanus wrote The Art of Courtly Love. It was a medieval pickup artist manual. It offered scripted dialogue for every possible scenario, including recommended responses for nearly every possible rejection. Imagine needing a 300-page manual just to say hello. It had more horses than Tinder, but considerably worse follow-through because the same book spent pages explaining why love between married people was impossible. So, the manual was essentially teaching people how to flirt with people they could never actually be with. Now, ancient Egypt actually did it a bit better. Their love poetry from 1300 BC was surprisingly intense. One papyrus reads, I wish I were her Nubian maid. Then I would see the color of all her body. Depending on your perspective, that is either the most devoted line in history or a reason to call the palace guards. But my favorite part, Egyptians frequently compared the people they loved to flowers, birds, and, in one memorable case, a particularly fine cut of meat. Apparently, 4,000 years ago, the ultimate compliment wasn't you have beautiful eyes. It was, you remind me of a high-quality steak. It turns out the way to a human's heart has always been through food metaphors. Vikings, as you'd expect, were much more direct. Courtship often involves simply showing up at a woman's family home and publicly announcing you wanted to marry her. One account describes a suitor presenting an enormous, expensive gift in front of the entire family. It was the 9th century version of proposing on a stadium jumbotron. The only difference, if the audience, her family, disapproved, they didn't just boo, they could legally end you. High stakes, low chill. And then there was ancient Greece. If you wanted to show someone you cared, there was a very real chance you were expected to show up, holding a live animal. Commonly a hare, a deer, or most famously, a rooster. Imagine that being the standard today. You show up for a first date, the door opens, and you're just standing there holding a confused chicken. So, here's where that leaves us. Early humans hunted zebras to prove they were boyfriend material. Romans sub-tweeted each other on stone walls. Medieval knights needed a literal script to function. Egyptians compared their crushes to dinner. And Greeks thought a rooster was the ultimate romantic gesture. Whatever slightly embarrassing thing you did the last time you liked someone, whatever awkward hey you sent, you are not uniquely bad at this. You are simply the latest entry in a 300,000-year-old consistently disastrous tradition. We've had 300,000 years of practice, and clearly, we've made almost no progress whatsoever. And honestly, that's kind of beautiful.